We're live now. Yeah, 5 years. So there's a guy named Rick Ferguson up in El Dorado Hills who's a financial investment advisor, actually. And so he kind of started the show, and then I joined him a couple months later. So we did it for a couple of years. And then Katie McConnell, do you know Katie?
Oh,
She's worked with us and some
Okay.
other firms, and she's now worked with Mark Haney's group, and they started a company called Higher Education. But Katie and I co-hosted for about, she co-hosted for about a year, and then
Wow.
this year I've had Amanda Blackwood's done it a few times, and so I don't have a permanent co-host, but anyway, I enjoy it. It's kind of my creative outlet.
Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty awesome.
So where were you coming from today?
Rancho Cordova.
Oof. Yeah,
I was fine with it. Would have been the rack on 50.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Usually it is, right? Unfortunately.
Seems like it's always right at Watt.
Yeah. No, Rick lives in El Dorado Hills, so he'd come over every day, all the time. But it's a long drive. There's no quick way to get here.
No.
Does that work?
No. Where do you live?
I'm in Rockland.
Oh, so straight down there.
Yeah. And I actually come early. I go over to Arden and hit the Starbucks there, so because I hate traffic, so
Yeah.
I leave early. It's nice. Okay, looks like my hands all cut off. And then, do you want me to give your email address? You want me to just give the website? What would you?
Oh, just regionbusiness.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I give the phone number as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or do you just want me to give the website?
Either one.
Okay.
Or both.
Okay, cool. Alright, we got a couple minutes. So we'll go like 12 minutes, then it's commercial break,
Okay.
and then 10, 12, or 12 minutes, then commercial. It's kind of that way. The second break, the one at the half hour, is a little bit longer.
Okay.
Most of them are like a minute long. And so Steve, our producer, when we're getting close to commercial time, he'll tell me how many minutes by fingers. So if I'm flashing fingers, that's 2 minutes, 1 minute. So
Okay.
that's what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's always good to know that we don't get cut off in mid-sentence, because they do go to commercial at this time, regardless of whether we're talking about.
So yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
So-
Pay the bills.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So now, are you going to the what are those awards tomorrow? The regional. Oh, shucks. So the thing tomorrow at the Hilton Arden.
Is that the GSAC thing?
No, I don't think it's the GSAC thing. I think it's some lunch thing where they were handing out technological awards or something. I don't know.
No, I'm going to some convergence technology conference next week.
Where's it at? Here?
Yeah. I think it's Hilton. That's what.
Where's that Hilton at?
I don't know.
I don't know. This is the Hilton Arden, which I think where.
Oh, it's the one it's behind the freeway. It used to be.
Okay.
That's nice.
We'll find it, I guess. So. All right. How long have you been in Rancho Cordova?
I've been in Rancho for 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. Moved there from Martin Arcade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like it out there?
Yeah, I love it. We live in the Anatolia area, so
Mhm.
it's Sunrise and Douglas. Got a grocery store.
I was gonna say it's kind of grown up.
Yeah.
Last time I was out there a few months back, I noticed that looked like they were putting in a grocery store. So.
Yeah, grocery store, and then because Rayleigh's is in now, there's all kinds of other little stores
Yeah,
and things,
yeah.
and so it's just
That's nice.
it feels like a whole community.
Where would you go before that? Would you have to go into Rancho or?
We'd have to go down to Costco or Quick Runs or Walgreens. So I guess the Walgreens there was the #1 selling Walgreens for milk in the Western U.S.
That's funny. That's funny. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Numbers on 91.55 FM. This is Mark Bellows. I'm your host. I'm a tax CPA principal with Clifton Larson Allen, a national CPA firm with offices throughout the U.S., and I'm resident in the Roseville office. I work with manufacturers and distributors, contractors, real estate investors and developers, all those types of businesses and their owners on tax planning, tax strategy, tax compliance, all that sort of thing. And so here it is, Wednesday morning, Halloween. I don't see our producer Steve dressed up as any other than a producer, and I'm dressed up as a CPA. But I did see some people out there dressed up today. One of the baristas at Starbucks had some pretty good makeup on. And don't forget, everyone, next Tuesday is election day, so make sure you vote, whether you do it in person, whether you do it by mail, however it is you vote. Just make sure your voice is heard. Lots of local and non-local implications, so let's make sure everyone's voice is heard. Get out there and vote. And if you ever want to get a hold of me, I actually had someone call yesterday who's listened to the show before and had a question. More than happy to talk to you. My number is 916-784-7800, or you can email me at mark.bellows@claconnect.com. And if I can't answer your question in a few minutes, then we can set up an appointment to go into more detail. So today I have a guest with me. I'm very interested to learn more about this gentleman. I've seen him around town over the last number of years and seen what he's done and how he's grown what it is he does. And so I'm looking forward to hearing more and more. And that's Joshua Wood, the CEO of Region Business Association.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Yeah, good morning, Joshua. Maybe a little closer. There you go. That's a little closer to the mic. That's it. Okay, Joshua, so tell us what Region Business Association is and does.
So Region Business is a advocacy association for the business community. What we do is we organize under the association Region Business different trade associations. We have Region Builders for the building industry, we have Region Restaurants for the restaurant industry, Region Technology, Region Manufacturers, Region Finance. So all these different industry sectors, we organize trade associations and work on public policy that advances regional economic growth on behalf of that individual industry. And so Region Business kind of coordinates this effort to make it so that we can find solutions that help make each of the important industry sectors that make up this community successful and thrive.
So there's 5 different associations under the umbrella of Region Business?
Absolutely.
That's great. Now, how long has Region Business Association been in existence?
Well, Region Business has been around for about 8 years, but in a different form. We originally started as a group called Region Builders, and it was really a commercial building industry association working on issues that were important for that industry. We championed several different efforts along the way, but as we grew and took on more policy efforts, we had other organizations start coming to us who were from different industry sectors asking, is there things that we could do on their behalf to help them on specific issues that came up, whether it was the city or the county. And out of that flowed the idea of creating Region Restaurants. And so we had a restaurant association and a building association, and then we had this conversation with these technology firms who really were concerned about the concerns and the policy direction that maybe cities and counties in the region were going because of the disruption that technology creates.
Of course, yeah.
And so we decided, well, if we're going to create a technology association, we're going to have a building industry association, and if we're going to have a restaurant association, we need to reform our structure. So we created Region Business as the umbrella group and then started adding on our trade associations. And then the next step is we added in Region Finance. So it's all of our local community banks in this region, the people who invest in making sure that we have jobs here.
Right. And then the manufacturing one.
Yep.
You guys started as well. Well, that's great. So up to 5, that's good. So do you oversee each of the 5? Is that kind of what's your role in the organization? Because you're the CEO of the umbrella parent, if you will.
Yes, and so in that role, we help staff and support each of the 5 organizations. We work with them on everything from public policy to connecting people in the industries together to also political action. You know, it's not just enough to have good policy, you have to have good partners at cities and counties who want to see policy that is good for economic growth, good for job creation, good for the private sector.
Right.
And so we work on raising money, and each of those groups have their own independent board of directors. And that is how the association works. It's a very unique model. I don't know anyone else who does it that way. But instead of having one just kind of broad-based business association, what we decided is let's focus on the legacy and important growth sectors for our economy.
So each of the 5 have their own board of directors, and then the Region Business Association, the parent, also has a board of directors. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and so the parent association helps kind of navigate traffic and coordinate between those associations.
So do the underlying associations with their board of directors, they can dictate policy and all that sort of thing? Do they ever have to like pass it through Region Business Association, or how do the two interact?
No, they don't. We have a belief in this saying that unity doesn't mean uniformity.
Okay.
So we don't always have to be on the same page internally, although my job as staff is to make sure that we don't have those problems.
Right.
And we've been able to navigate those issues. There's been, whether it's been certain elections or certain policies where there's been a little bit different take. But then what we try to do is get those different industry groups in the same room and figure out if are there compromises of things that we can do to get everyone on the same page. And so it's actually been a very useful thing, because what we see a lot in politics is you'll have one business interest group, then you have another business interest group, and they're actually advocating for the opposite sides of an issue, and it's actually hurting both of them.
Sure. Yeah.
And so let's get these two groups together and let's figure out solutions. And so we've been able to do that. And then the Umbrella Association says, well, what are some of the issues that don't just affect the builders or the technology association or the banks, but are kind of broad-based issues that affect everyone, that are so important that we can champion those and help support the efforts of the trade associations.
Good. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So the website is www.regionbusiness.org, right? And
Yep.
so if people want to go find out more information about any of the 5 underlined ones, did they go to that website first and then?
Yep,
It'll
everything's
direct
right at
them?
regionbusiness.org.
Okay, so go to regionbusiness.org, then you can find out more about each of the underlying 5 organizations.
Absolutely.
And so how many people are on your board of directors?
Well, on the board of directors, for each of the trade associations, their bylaws approve up to 25 board members. For the Region Business Association, it's 35. So it's a pretty large organization.
That is. Do you have 35 members on there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So
no waiting list.
Wow, oh, really? That's interesting. I mean, it's a lot of influence, so I can see the reason for being on there. A lot of good information on there. But that can be an unwieldy group.
You know, actually, compared to some of the other business groups in town, it's actually a very small board of directors. If you look at some of the other groups like GSAC and the Chamber, I think they're in the 50 to 80 range. So
yeah, I've been
kind of small.
Yeah, no, I guess it is. I'm on some boards, and it's just sometimes the more voices you get in there, the more challenging it is to make sure all of them are heard, and yet to also get things done, right?
Oh, absolutely. And a group that does politics, you can be for sure that we have board members who have very strong opinions, and we debate things pretty aggressively internally before we come to solutions.
I imagine you do. And so does the association come out, do you release a voters pamphlet, or do you come out in favor of one issue or another typically?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. What we do is, the builders might have their recommendations on candidates, the restaurants might have theirs, the Region Business Association might have theirs, it might be a different one. At the end of the day, 98% of the time we can get everyone on the same page, and that's what's important, is then there's true buy-in. It's not just about one group dictating to the others. And that was what was important to us, and I think another thing that makes us unique, to be on the board, you have to be an owner or partner in your company. And so we get people who are used to signing the front of the check,
Right.
who understand the significance.
Yeah, I bet. So if people want to find out what those particular issues or the positions on the issues are, they can go to regionbusiness.org.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and they've got information there. So I help people as again, voting on Tuesday is very important. People will make sure they get out and vote. And so if you want to see how Region Business Association's position is on various issues and that sort of thing, that'd be the place to go.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we are going to go to commercial break here. When we get back, we'll continue the conversation. We're talking with Joshua Wood. He's the CEO of Region Business Association. You can get a hold of them again at www.regionbusiness.org, or the number is 916-397-4776. We'll be right back. Something stinks. That's the problem with these things, is they don't change them out. So hopefully yours is all
Yeah, mine's okay.
Okay, good. Yeah. Excuse me. Wait, this is like a minute break.
Okay.
So what do you got going on after this today?
Oh, smart. Meeting with the City of Sacramento, we're working on policies with our Region Finance Association on moving money into local banks if they reinvest that money into development projects and kind of important economic growth initiatives. So
Okay. Is that something you would want to talk about?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool, good. Excuse me. We're back. You're listening to Beyond the Numbers. This is Mark Bellows, your host. It is Wednesday morning. This is a business talk show where we bring in various business owners and leaders throughout town to talk about the issues that they maybe are facing or dealing with, how they've grown their business, their particular profession, that sort of thing. And today my guest is Joshua Wood. He's the CEO of Region Business Association. Joshua, so you started Region Builders like 8 years ago. So was that college, or did you do something else before that, or what? Tell us a little bit about your personal professional history.
Okay. Prior to Region Builders, I worked a year for a public employee labor union. Then I went and worked in the building at the Capitol for a year for a conservative Republican.
Okay.
And then after that, I went and worked at...
So from union to conservative Republican.
Yes.
So get different views, I'm sure.
It's been really good because I can understand both sides of issues. I think it's helped me a lot in my career, what I do. And then I went and worked at the Builders Exchange. Was the executive director there for a while.
Okay.
And then Region Builders really kind of came out of the Builders Exchange it was a pack of that group originally.
Okay. So where'd you go to college?
I went to Sac State.
Sac State. Okay. So are you from Sacramento originally?
No, I'm actually from McLeod, Mount Shasta. North.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you decided to come to the big city, Sacramento, for school and.
Yeah, my dorm room had. I think my dorm at Sac State had more people than my entire town.
That's funny. Was McLeod affected by the fires this last year?
Yes, it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Do you have family up there still?
Yeah, we have a lot of family up there.
How did they do in the fires?
They did okay.
Okay.
It was good, and then, the big thing I think up there is, and I think you see that everywhere, is when there's a tragedy like that, I think everyone pulled together and figured out a way to help each other, and that was just really special.
Yeah, that's true. I do see that a lot. That's great. So we were just talking at the break about where you're going after the show here. So we're going to tell us a little bit about what we're doing, and kind of gives us a flavor of what it is you do in your everyday role.
Oh, absolutely. So we have the Region Finance Association, so that's all the community banks within the region. And one of the things that we've been doing is trying to answer the question that our region's had is, how do we get or increase our access to capital so that when we have companies here, they can grow, or when we want to locate companies here, they have the funds that they need in order to grow. And so what we did is we created this policy called RISE. It's called Responsible Investments for a Stronger Economy. And what we do is we go to municipalities and we get them to move some of the money that they have in international banks, into local banks.
Okay.
But those banks have to commit to have a great rate of return. They have to show strong financials. They have to ensure that the money is still liquid for the jurisdiction. But also they commit to this additional step, which is 50% of the funds they receive have to be relent into businesses, development projects, enterprises within that jurisdiction. And so what it's done is it's really created this economic catalyst to help invest in the types of projects that we want and need for our region.
That's a great program. Is that something that you guys developed on your own, or have you seen it in other markets?
We have not seen it anywhere. We actually created it on our own. We've done a lot of research. I don't think there's anything like it anywhere in the country. But it's a first in the nation policy, but what it also does is it's really been not only first in the nation as far as the idea, but I think we've created a unique model in the sense that we have so many jurisdictions who've embraced the vision of it and have come in and have moved over tens of millions of dollars into this program that are now being reinvested into projects.
That's great. Communities throughout the nation, they're competing for business. I mean, and businesses know that, and businesses can look to areas to see what types of incentives those areas offer. And a lot of times that'll be a big part of the decision making in terms of where to locate a business, where to move, start a business, where to move a business to. And so I know a lot of times there's some tax incentives that they offer, property tax savings or sales tax cuts or income tax breaks or whatever it is. But then there's other programs like the one you're describing. And so I think that's real important to help build up the business and keep the business in the community.
Oh, absolutely, and that's such an important issue to us that we have RISE to help with the financial needs of those businesses, but we've also created a program through Region Builders called Permit Simplicity, and that was actually adopted from another jurisdiction in actually Phoenix and then modified for California law. But what it does is it allows a business to get a 24-hour permit if they want to locate here and grow their company. So the 24 hours to get their building permit. And we just actually did it for the Mi Rancho project in the city of Elk Grove. 150,000 square foot tenant improvement for a food manufacturing facility. The permit was 1 day.
Wow. And absent that, permits can take months, years.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that really can be a disincentive for someone who may otherwise, again, can look to another market that's going to offer something. And again, that could be a competitive advantage for Sacramento. If we can offer that 1 day permitting process, or certainly it's a very short permitting process versus other markets where they couldn't. So is that a city by city, or is that more of a county, the permitting, what would you call it?
The program Permit Simplicity.
Permit Simplicity.
Well, we've gotten several jurisdictions in the region that pass it, and kind of our strategy that we use politically is the lighthouse effect. We go and we get one jurisdiction to pass a policy, and then we get the other jurisdictions to look at the results of that policy and get them to adopt it as well. So Elk Grove is the first jurisdiction that truly passed Permit Simplicity, and so they're growing it and growing it. We're at the point where they're even allowing new shell construction with that. So we're having new construction and tenant improvements with a 1 day permit. There's no one else doing it like that in California.
That's phenomenal. I remember when things kind of crashed in 2008, 9, 10, 11, that range, and so cities were looking to try to incentivize people to build homes. So I was going to some lunches and seminars at that time, and I remember, I think Elk Grove might have been the ones that had really simplified the permitting process. It cut the price down a lot. I mean, sometimes a lot, in a house could be as much as $80,000 along the fees. So they cut out the fees and reduced the permitting process. I think Elk Grove and Rancho, if I remember right over, those two were cities that were a little more in the forefront of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
we were intimately involved in that as Region Builders, and
huge.
we are so proud of Elk Grove because it's so easy once you have the fees at a certain level to not take a look internally and realize that you're making it so that projects can't pencil. And so Elk Grove stepped up and they cut some of their fees to zero. I mean, they really made a drastic change.
Yeah.
But we're also glad to see that now Sacramento City's doing that. I just came, I guess last night, we just finished a hearing. We've been working with Sacramento City for a while trying to address the housing crisis by finding fee reductions and finding ways to build affordable housing. Well, the city of Sacramento, as of last night, eliminated all impact fees on affordable housing projects.
Wow.
That is going
That's
to spur
phenomenal.
tons of development,
Yeah.
and it's going to help offset really the problems that we've had with this housing crisis.
And that you guys were involved in those discussions. And
Yes, that's the type of stuff that we do as an organization.
That's great. I mean, you hear over and over, and I've heard a lot that just housing in Sacramento, housing in Northern California, overall is just so expensive. And now with interest rates having gone up, it's more and more difficult for people to afford homes, especially getting into them. And so anything we can do as a community to help make it more affordable is just going to be better, because otherwise people are going to leave and go to Boise or Phoenix or some market outside of here. So that's the kind of stuff that will help keep people in California. So,
and that's why it was so important to us.
Yeah.
And it's really coming in the face of Prop 10 with rent control at the state level, and then the rent control proposals that have happened at the local level in Sacramento. Obviously, a ballot measure is qualified to try to put it on the ballot to cap rents.
Right.
The problem with that is if you have that measure pass, then there's going to create such a disincentive for people to develop that it will make it so that actually there'll just be less supply.
yeah.
And it's going to have a negative impact. It'll also, there's been a lot of studies on it. It reduces property values for your home. If you have a home that's near rent control property, you're talking about a 15% drop in your property value. So what we wanted to do is instead, let's create some ways to address the housing crisis, because we need to first say that it's unacceptable, but then we also need to say it's solvable.
Yeah.
And by saying it's solvable, that means that we need to look at fee reductions, which the city's done, and now we need to hold the other agencies accountable. And what I mean when I say that is, if I do a development project in Sacramento, I'm not just paying fees to that agency. There's 10 other agencies they're collecting for who are part of that.
Right.
And so what we challenged the council last night is, yes, this is awesome. This is a first step. You know, this is going to be $10,000 a door reduction.
Wow.
But then let's go to these other jurisdictions that you collect the fees for, and let's get them to step up too.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see how that goes. I hope it goes well. I mean, it's such a great idea and such a good way to address the housing issue that we are all facing. So, what other kinds of stuff are you guys involved in?
Well, we do a lot of project-related things. For example, we helped run two of the campaigns for the downtown arena. We helped with the Delta Shores project get the big box ordinance repealed so that large format retail like Walmarts and Targets, Wincos could go into that project. We recently.
A big project.
Oh, it's a beautiful big project.
Yeah, we stopped by there a couple times on our way home from going to see our daughter in San Diego, and so we come by and just see that. I mean, that's a massive project.
Yeah, it's going to have a huge impact on that community.
Yeah.
But I think the one I'm most proud of recently is we really played a kind of a key role in supporting the Wilton Rancheria Casino Resort in Elk Grove. And so that's the casino that's going to go at the site of the Ghost Mall in Elk Grove.
Yeah.
And so, we do a lot of campaign work helping candidates get elected. And I can tell you the number one issue in Elk Grove is the casino. It's not the casino. It's the Ghost Mall. It's people driving by and seeing that symbol of failure.
Yeah. So to do something with that property would really change. It changes the perception.
Oh, absolutely.
So, which is important.
Plus, it's a $500 million project that creates 3,000 jobs.
Yeah. So how many jobs?
Probably 3,000.
Oh, that's excellent.
It's a big deal.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So working on that and other things?
Yeah, we have our Region Restaurant Association, and that is all the really cool farm to fork restaurants downtown. All the people that everyone know.
Yeah.
It's a fun group because they're all little mini stars, you know. And but something that we have in Sacramento is just so special is the fact that, you know, so much of our food is so locally sourced. Mm-hmm. And then there's other regions that kind of have the farm to table thing, but ours is real. It's not just something that we're using as a brand. It really is just a recognition of who we are. And so what we've been doing is working with them on just trying to promote the brand of Farm to Fork and promote what's going on in the restaurants, but also hold back the line on a lot of the regulations. For example, you know, Sacramento City at one point was looking at minimum wage increases that would have been just specific to our city. Right. Not a statewide raise, and so we were very successful in blocking that from hurting the restaurants.
But there's other cities that have done that outside of California, right? Is that something like Seattle? Is that one?
Yeah, and it's had a devastating impact.
Yeah, because if you're there, you can just, like you said, move outside the city limits, and then you're not subject to that rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine that's challenging.
Yeah, it was. I mean, if you've seen some of the economic numbers from Seattle, I mean, it's literally put hundreds of businesses just out of business because it's just they can't afford it.
Yeah.
And so now we're helping them deal with those type of issues, and then every so often we'll see soda taxes or predictive scheduling or all these other issues come up. And so I feel like a lot of the time when it comes to the restaurants, we're just playing defense. Mm-hmm. It's just this wall of water trying to come. We're just trying to hold it back with the dam.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's hopefully you guys can continue to keep that wall of water back. That's important stuff. I imagine that. Well, we got to go to commercial break, but when we get back, maybe we can talk a little bit about, I imagine the makeup of each of these boards of directors are in those particular industries. It would make sense. So the restaurant would probably have people in the restaurant industry on the board, et cetera. So
yeah.
We'll talk a little about that when we get back. We're talking to Joshua Wood, the CEO of Region Business Association, and you're listening to Beyond the Numbers.
It's more water.
Anything? Water's perfect.
Okay.
Particularly like to cover that we haven't yet?
Any political issues you're watching or interested in?
Well, anything you want to particularly talk about? So
yeah,
we'll cover.
Yeah, okay. Transportation needs in our region.
Okay.
growth of the technology sector.
Okay.
And maybe start before that, the importance of using local companies.
Yeah.
That's something that cuts across all the different groups.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have kids?
Yeah, just 4.
Just 4? That's a lot. What are their ages?
11, 9, 7, 5.
Okay.
So planned.
Yeah, right? Boys, girls?
The 3 boys and a girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
The
got
girl's
3.
the second youngest. So
Oh, okay.
oops.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we've got 3 girls, so.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know what it's like to raise girls. I do not know what it's like to raise boys. So I'm sure I'm sure there are differences. So at different ages too.
Yeah, it's really it's so interesting. The boys are just we're guys, right? The boys are just rough and dirty.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the girl is my princess.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. Are they involved in sports or activities or?
Yeah. So that my girl she does I guess I don't know what you call it, cheer.
Okay.
And then I got a couple boys. They do basketball, and then one of them is just very athletic. More so than all of them, and he is doing like ninja classes, which are basically like how they have the American Ninja Warrior show.
Yeah.
They actually have like gyms that are dedicated to practicing for stuff like that, and that's what he does.
That's cool. So do they have competitions at his age for that type of stuff?
Yeah, and so he hasn't done any of them yet, but he's very good. He basically.
How interesting. Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's a mix of that with kind of like gymnastic kind of stuff. He's very in shape.
Yeah, I would say so. Watching those shows, we watched a lot of times, and I mean, you use a lot of different muscle groups.
Yeah,
in that. So I could see gymnastics. Yeah. So I could definitely see gymnastics come into play in that.
What about you? Do you do any sports, or your kids do any sports?
My youngest she's cross country.
Okay.
It's her big thing. She's gonna do some track as well. And then my middle daughter did dance team at Rockland High for 3 years, and she's in college now. And then our oldest was basketball. We're back. You listen to Beyond the Numbers on my 105.5. Mark Bellows, your host here. I'm a tax principal with Clifton Larson Allen, a regional CPA for a national CPA firm with offices throughout the U.S., including an office here in Sacramento in the Roseville area. I work with manufacturers and distributors, real estate developers and investors, and contractors on and the owners, the business, on planning, tax strategy, just general business issues. Really, it's kind of an overall business advisor. I work on finding ways to create opportunities to improve my clients' business in whatever ways that is important to them. So it's a great career. If anyone is out there listening and thinking about what kind of career to go into, I can tell you CPA is really a great career. It's been great for me, and I'm grateful to do it, and it's really changed and grown over the years. I've been doing this for 29 years, and it's changed a lot in 29 years. So if you want to get a hold of me, mark.bellows at claconnect.com or 916-784-7800. And today my guest is Joshua Wood, CEO of Region Business Association. We were talking during the break about our kids, what the kids are doing. So it's always good to get the personal aspect of people too. What I really like about this show that I try to emphasize is learn people's story. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time personal stuff on the air, but it's just kind of nice to know a little bit about you. So that's good. So one of the things we were talking about before the break, maybe we touch on for a minute here before jumping to a couple other things, is I said imagine each of the boards of the 5 associations have people on those boards who are associated with that type of business. That's their business. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. To be on the restaurant board, you have to own a restaurant. To be on the builders board, you have to be the owner of a building industry company.
Yeah, I had lunch on Monday with Roosevelt Cooper of Cooper Oats Air Conditioning, and Roosevelt is the one who said, "Hey, you should talk to Joshua." So, and so he mentioned he's on the board, and so Cooper Oats Air Conditioning, of course, is in the construction space, and so I'm sure he's in the builder one or maybe the overall one. But
yeah, he started on the builder board, and then we brought him up to the region business board, and that's kind of how our process works. We'd like to move people from the different industry sectors to the main board over time because it gives them a broader view of what's going on across all the industries.
So being an association, are you a not-for-profit then?
Yes, 501c6 not-for-profit.
So what is your annual budget?
Annual budget, small, maybe 300.
Okay.
The association has a different model, as I said before. So we spend and we prioritize a big portion of our revenue towards political action, which is different than the association budget.
Okay.
So, for example, in last election cycle, we bundled or gave about $750,000 to candidates that year.
Okay.
And
Well,
so we really prioritize the money going to helping support the people who are doing good public policy.
gotcha. So one of the things we were talking about is and you want to talk a little bit more about is the importance of local. So local in staying local, working with local businesses. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really something I think that connects the builders, that connects the technology companies and the restaurants and our banking group all together. Is we really want to see companies in this region succeed. And a lot of times when we deal with local governments, if you're from here, for some reason it's you get passed over for projects or things that are going on. And so that's one of the reasons that we took on Rise with the banks, because we really wanted to see the money staying here.
Yeah.
It's also why we've supported with our building group, local preferences to make it so that, if the bids are even, why can't we pick the company that's from here? It just makes sense to keep the money in this economy. It means it cycles through 7 times more. Now we're actually working on policies just like that with our technology association, trying to find ways to make it so that when they're doing technology purchases or they're getting software built for their agencies, that they're using local firms. Because at the end of the day, if we're going to grow that sector here, and if that's going to be a priority and something we want, then we have to make it so that there's advantages to being located here.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, do you work with other not-for-profits? Do you guys partner up in various things?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So who are some of the ones you work with?
There's some great ones we work with. Right now, because we're so heavily involved in this rent control issue and trying to make sure we preserve the free market, we work really closely with the California Apartment Association and
Okay.
California Association of Realtors, who has a Sacramento chapter. We also partner, with the Greater Sacramento Area Economic Council, also known as GSAC.
GSAC, yeah.
Because they recruit companies, but our job is to create a business environment where those companies want to be here. And so there's a really close partnership with them as well.
Yeah, we had Barry on the show. Barry on the show back in the spring sometime, I think. So
Yeah, Barry's great.
yeah, it's good guest, and he's done a great job leading that organization over the last couple of years. Come from Phoenix market, where he had some good success. So you work with GSAC. You work with who else are you working with?
Those are the main groups. We also partner across with groups that aren't like us. We spend a lot of time working on creating broad-based coalitions to win on issues. So we've partnered closely with, for example, the building trade unions or the other public employee unions. We partner with community organizations that tend to not agree with us on issues, because what we like to do is try to find as much consensus as possible so that we can get policies passed that are good for business. So to us, it's not about the ideology, it's about the results.
Gotcha. Yeah. So what is the mission? I mean, your mission.
Our mission is advancing regional economic growth.
Okay.
And we do that. Every industry sector is focused on advancing economic growth for that industry. And at the end of the day, what we want is to create policy and to make change in this area that's good for the industries and for the community. And so we think that there's a good balance where business can win, and it's also good for people in every neighborhood in Sacramento. And that's the vision that we have. And so we take a lot of time developing the policies and things that we create, so that when we bring them forward, we know we're doing the right thing, and we're asking elected officials to do the right thing.
Right. And then probably trying to hold them accountable as best you can.
That's the fun part too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing that right now. It's election cycle. We're playing in everywhere across the region, from Folsom to Woodland to Roseville to Rancho Cordova to Elk Grove and Citrus Heights. We're just spending a lot of money trying to help support good candidates, and we're also working to ensure that they replace some people who maybe haven't been as good for business as we thought they would be.
Okay. Well, good. Let's talk a little bit about the transportation needs. So where are we at with that in the region? And what do you guys see as future needs?
Well, our region has, it took me a while to get here this morning, and one of the reasons is we really don't have a lot of parallel capacity roads. We have, 55, 99, but we need other connectors. And so one of the projects that we've been really vocal about and supportive of is the Capital Southeast Connector, and that's the road that will basically end up connecting Elk Grove to Rancho Cordova through Sacramento County, through Folsom, all the way to El Dorado Hills. And that will reduce a lot of traffic on 50 and other roads. And so we've been, really, vocal. We've helped them get lots of, tens of millions of dollars. If it's a big project. I mean, we're basically turning, a 35-mile stretch of road into an expressway.
Right.
And so that's one of the types of things that we take on. But we've also been, really involved in, helping support streetcar and, the changes and reforms at RT to make it so that it's safe and rideable. One of the things that we're glad to see is now business people are being appointed to the RT board so that they have some kind of expertise and acumen in that area. And there's been changes in the leadership there, and we've helped, really support that. Then, of course, we partner, we have our local Sacramento Area Council of Governments, which is our regional metropolitan planning organization. They get federal dollars and help disperse it throughout the region to help make projects happen, and we've been supportive there. And then what we'll see, I think, come up, regardless of what happens on Prop 6 with the gas taxes, there is a need in our region for local sources of funds in order to make sure that we get roads built and improve, the access that we have. It's all about goods mobility and people mobility.
Right.
And so I think you'll see measures like that come forward within the next few years that'll help just create connectivity. And I think a couple other things on that is we need to make it so that our river's not a barrier. I Street Bridge and all the other bridges that that could connect Sacramento and West Sac are crucial for goods movement, crucial for people movement, and we're glad to see that there's been some efforts to actually fund those projects, but we need a more aggressive approach, and that's one of the things that we've been working on, is working with the jurisdictions to improve those connectivities there, as well as the 80-65 bottleneck. Solve that problem. Everyone in Placer County should be happy if we can solve that.
That'd be phenomenal if that could happen. I was in Minnesota last week for work in St. Paul, and so I was checking out the Mississippi River, which is a big river, of course. But they, there were plenty throughout the course of the day, plenty of barges moving up and down, moving goods up and down the river. And I wonder, how much more could we be doing that in our area? And would that even make sense to do that? I don't know. But
absolutely. I mean, we have a port in West Sac, right?
Yes.
We have the ability to do it. It's just it's about creating that connectivity, investing in the things that actually help grow the economy, and that's a perfect example of the types of things that we've been supporting that we can do.
Okay.
We can also expand our airport, and when I mean that, I don't mean the international airport, but we have a lot of operations going out at Mather that are commercial related to goods movement, and we need to expand that. And the more we can expand that and double down on that, the more connectivity we have to make it so that we can move the goods.
Well, how is, speaking of that, just made me think of the Amazon Fulfillment Center over there by the airport. I mean, how has that been for the region thus far?
I couldn't really tell you. I mean, I think that was going to happen anyways. At the end of the day, that's the new model. The new model, retail's going away slowly, and we're seeing that happen. And the hard part is it's creating this issue for all these aging corridors where you have all this retail and these old shopping centers, and they're almost mothballed. And so what we need to do is we've actually been working on policies related to, can we reform those shopping centers, those old ones, and make it so that the bottom floor we have retail, but it's supported by 3 or 4 levels of housing on top. And so there's a lot of things that we can do to go back and fix that. I know that I've seen them from a lot of the groups we deal with. There's a lot of concern about kind of the Amazon effect. That is, based on what we're doing with our region technology group, that's the future, and we're only going to go even more that direction. So I think what we can do as a region is position ourselves with more industrial space, and the type of industrial space that is ready for companies like that to locate, because that's the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, and you're seeing it more and more. So, well, we're going to go commercial break. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the technology aspect. We mentioned the regional technology, and we were going to maybe some of the growth of the sector here in this region. So
Perfect.
We're talking with Joshua Wood, if you want, with the CEO of Region Business Association, www.regionbusiness.org if you want more information. We'll be right back. Going good?
Good.
So do you have a lot of nights where you're going to activities?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
A lot of nights, late nights, early mornings.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Weekends too?
Yeah.
Some?
I mean, I'm a workaholic, so so I always find it, I'll try to fit people in the week, but we're lobbying and all these jurisdictions around the region, and our strategy is also to be almost embedded in a lot of these races, and so we end up offering people, hey, well, can you meet Saturday? Not everyone takes me up on that.
Yeah. I'm sure not,
but I'll even have Saturdays. I'll just be stacked 8 to 5, but it's just part of getting getting things moving.
Do you see that slowing down after next week after the election?
Yes. Yeah.
That's nice. So
I always have a really bad year and a normal year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, election years are tough.
I'm sure. Yeah, and it's kind of like us with our tax season. You get super busy, and then after April 15th, you get a chance to breathe some and relax a little before the next busy season starts. So. We're back. We're talking today here at Leading Beyond Numbers. Today we're talking with Joshua Wood, CEO of Region Business Association, www.regionbusiness.org. And we've been covering various subjects today. It's been a great discussion. Thank you, Joshua. Let's talk a little bit about the tech sector and how that's grown here in the Sacramento area and how you guys are involved in that.
Yeah, one of the things that we realized when we founded the Region Technology Group is we actually have a pretty large tech sector already. And we spend a lot of time talking about bringing in companies from the Bay Area, but we actually have a very large amount of tech companies in this region related to cybersecurity, related to government issues. And so what we try to do is just bring them all together and then look at what are some of the things that can help benefit them as a region, as an industry, so we can grow that sector here. And so what we found is access to information. We have, because Sacramento is a government town still, GovTech is actually a huge growing sector, and that's where you have open access to information from jurisdictions, and then you can create apps that relate to traffic, that relate to permitting, that relate to a lot of different things, and we're a perfect test site because we have that. So let's play to our strength with the fact that we are a government town and create technology focused around GovTech. And so we've worked with cities on open access information so that they can put out the data that the tech companies need in order to basically create the apps and software that actually help support it. And they can use Sacramento really as a test site. So we focused on that, and then really another piece of the technology sector, which is the technology in the built environment. We use that as kind of a play off of what we did with Region Builders. But what we're finding is with autonomous vehicles and with what's going on with the changes in Title 24, you have buildings that are by far more technology advanced than they've ever been. And then you have the built environment as far as roads that need more technology than they've ever needed before in order to help support those new industries.
Like, we need more technology. Like, what do you mean by that?
Meaning sensors and different pieces that go into the roads that make it so that not only the cars communicate with each other, but they communicate with the system so that it's actually helping provide data. And so what we've done is...
I believe that throughout California and the U.S., there's like an infinitesimal percentage of roads that are there yet. I mean, I kind of think that's such a new technology that...
Yeah, but in Asia and Europe, I mean, there's that type of technology is there. It's being used in a lot of places. It's just not being used here.
Yeah.
And so right? And it will be.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is help really spur that and create partnerships to get like new roads going in, to have the best technology that is supportive of where the industries are going. And then also related to that is we just took a study mission to Phoenix where we looked at their autonomous vehicle technology. Really what's going on is they are the test site for the entire U.S. Because they have such a good political environment that those companies establish their testing there, and so they've actually got it so that all of these, from Uber to Lyft, you just imagine all the different types of companies that deal with cars and technology doing testing in Phoenix. And so we went there and we looked at it, and it was funny. We thought that we were going to find out, what technology do we need to copy, and I think what we came back is it doesn't matter if we have the technology, we'll never be a test site until we have a political environment where they don't feel like they're going to get sued for everything that goes wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But we did learn a lot about the technology and what we can bring here and what we can play off of. And I think that we've seen that, with in Sacramento, there's been some efforts on that. And actually, Rancho Cordova has actually put in a lot of technology as well related to autonomous vans and things of that nature. So we're glad to see that the region's stepping up in that sector.
Well, good. Yeah, I think there's a lot of changes that could happen in California in terms of the business regulations, the climate, that sort of thing. So I think it's good. It's organizations like yours that that affect the change.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things
It's
is
done slowly, it's small pieces, but it's being done.
yeah, and we have a structural issue. What it comes down to is we hear often, everyone wants to blame the state, they blame CEQA. It's the state and it's CEQA, but it's not just that. It's our local governments. Here's a perfect example. It was part of a study that we did that we partnered with. They looked at the number of government agencies that we have per 1,000 residents, or per 100,000 residents. And Phoenix was either 2.5 or 3.5, and Sacramento was 17.
Jeez.
And what you have is let's say I go to any jurisdiction in this region, and I want to get approval for a project. I have to get the city's approval, but the fire district's separate, so I need separate approval for the fire district. There's also a separate water district that I have to go through, and a separate sewer district, and a separate parks district, and a separate, you name it. And so what ends up happening is we have to layer so many approvals, so no one has on their own a horrible approval process, as much as you have to go through so many of them. Yeah. And you eventually, what happens when those approval processes conflict, when you have one agency say, well, we need this road to be like this, and then you have the fire department say, well, that's a problem because of this reason, and they conflict, and we run into those types of issues. So that's the type of reforms that we're really focused on now, is how do we can't consolidate government agencies, can we consolidate some of the functions?
Yeah, and so that permit ease, what was it called?
Permit simplicity.
Simplicity, I can't remember that. That's one way to address it.
Absolutely.
That's a great example right there. Maybe talk a little bit about the Manufacturing Association. What types of manufacturers have you guys been working with, and what are you guys doing in that area as well?
So the manufacturing one is our newest association, and it's chaired by Ryan McKinney from Pacific Coast Building Products, and we're just getting that one going. That just literally just started last month, and so we're really excited about it. But one of the things that they're focused on is kind of, again, a play off of what we've seen with our other associations, is how do we get government agencies, when they're purchasing things that are manufactured, to be purchasing them or giving preferences to those things in this region. Also, how do we use, whether it's fee waivers or maybe not tax increment financing, because that's gone, but there's other things like EFIDs and other specific tax districts that they can create to make it so that those companies can compete, because it's already difficult to compete with the U.S., but we're competing with China. So we have to find ways to make it so that there's a preferable tax treatment for those types of companies if we want to keep manufacturing in California.
And that goes back to our earlier discussion about how competitive it is for all the jurisdictions to try to draw business, and so business has options.
Absolutely.
Nowadays. And so the more any of our local jurisdictions can do to incentivize business to, like I say, either stay or locate there, the better chance we'll have of keeping stuff around town. And so I do a lot of work in the manufacturing and distribution area, so that's one of interest to me as well, and see with the tech one. I think those are all really good industry associations that you guys are getting going. So that's great. Well, so we've got about a couple minutes left. What's kind of on your horizon for the next 2, 3, 5 years?
Well, I would say this: the number one priority, I think, for the next 2 years will be the RISE program. As much money as we can get these local governments to put locally here, so that can be reinvested here, will be crucial for, I think, our economy's growth and having access to capital. I won't say the jurisdiction. There's one jurisdiction in this region where literally a third of their monies that they have invested in CDs, money market accounts, is actually invested in banks that aren't even in this country.
Wow.
At a rate of return, that's abysmal. It's embarrassing. And so what we need to do is get those monies moved here
Yes.
at a good rate of return,
Yeah.
and they get that money reinvested here. If that jurisdiction moved over that monies, it's $1 billion I'm talking about, just that one jurisdiction. Add in all the different agencies. Yes, we have a lot of money that we can be keeping here, that can be invested here, and make it so that companies can grow here.
Good. Well, we'll continue to watch for your success in that area. No doubt that you guys will have success, and that you've been successful thus far in the things you've gone after. So that's great. So we're wrapping up the show here. We've been talking today with Joshua Wood, the CEO of Region Business Association. If you want to get hold of Joshua, www.regionbusiness.org. Find out more about what they do and get involved. This is Mark Bellows. You can get hold of me at 996-784-7800. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week.